The man, the myth, the legend himself, Ric Bucher, joins me next to talk Warriors. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and more specifically, the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. You can follow Fox Sports' Ric Bucher. He's been covering this game for decades. He's a legend. I respect and love the man. On the platform formerly known as Twitter, Ric Bucher is your handle, same as your name. Great to see you, sir. How are you doing? And give us your first impressions or your overall impressions of the Warriors offseason. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Your thoughts? And how are you, sir?
First of all, I'm impressed, and thanks for having me. I'm impressed daily. You're doing this every single day?
Yeah, except for now. Now we're about 3 days a week during the offseason. Okay. But yeah, it's a deal. It's not easy.
I was going to say that's effort this time of year. Things are fairly slow.
Yes, sir.
when it comes to the Warriors, it's a tricky question because I think they made the best of a bad situation. They had to move Jordan Poole, and I think that the deal that they made is a reflection of the market is not what some Jordan Poole fans think it might have been. And so it serves several different things. One, if Chris Paul doesn't work out, they're not committed to him long-term. It's this contract. It's this year. If nothing else, they get cap relief from Poole's contract. I believe it actually has a chance of working. Does it mean that they're good enough to win a championship? That I don't know.
Right.
I don't know that anybody is better than the Denver Nuggets right now. I think that they are on a level all of their own. And then there are 4 or 5 teams, depending on what happens. Denver Nuggets had a lot of luck when it came to health, as opposed to the previous years. I think that was luck coming around because they had suffered injuries prior, but they don't have anybody other than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I think is 30, and he's the oldest rotational player. All the rest are in their 20s, and that's just not where the Warriors are. And so the bottom line is, if the Warriors fall short, in my estimation, it's not because the Jordan Poole Chris Paul deal was a bad one. Or that Chris Paul and Draymond Green and the rest of them can't play together. It's going to be that they're not good enough. They at this stage, Steph is still incredible and in great shape, but he doesn't have the same explosiveness that he once had. He's got to do it with endurance. Klay Thompson's not the same player. Draymond Green's not the same player. Chris Paul's not the same player.
Right.
So I think that they are. I don't think they're going to have as many issues. And I'll tell the Wild. We'll say this: the last thing I'm worried about is Draymond Green and Chris Paul fighting over who's the leader of the team and how all of this is going to mesh. Those two, I think, are actually very, very similar in the way they approach the game. And the fact that they're both good friends with LeBron James, I think is a plus in terms of their ability to find out how the other guy ticks in short order. So I just, that's the first thing that in the shows that I'm on, that's been discussed a lot. Like, well, Chris Paul, how does he feel about coming off the bench and all of that? And I think at this stage, Chris Paul cares about winning. Draymond Green cares about winning. And the Warriors already have plenty of examples of guys, Steph Curry included, who have sacrificed their games. Klay Thompson, Steph, Draymond Green, every star who already has rings in his safe box has already demonstrated that they are willing to make personal sacrifices to win championships. So I just can't imagine that Chris Paul is going to come in and have any other attitude than, okay, you guys have proved you know how to get it done. Tell me what it is that I need to do to help.
Absolutely. I want to touch on Klay Thompson a bit. He was on Paul George's podcast recently. Said I loved how forthright he was. Showed some self-awareness. I always appreciate that. But look, in terms of Klay Thompson, I feel like he's much more important this upcoming season than people maybe are giving credit for, simply because with Jordan Poole gone, that's 20 points a game you just shipped out. That's explosiveness you shipped out. And Steph Curry, I don't know if he's going to have enough help this year offensively. Klay has to be that second scorer. And if he regresses, if that regression continues from last year and carries over, I think the Warriors are screwed. I really do. What are your thoughts on Klay Thompson? What do you at least expect? I know this is all conjecture. We're speculating, but what is your opinion on Klay Thompson? Do you think he'll rebound? Do you think this is a trend that's going to continue? Your thoughts on Klay?
I just hope that he rebounds somewhat defensively. To me, that's far more important. And I hear you when you take away the points that you lose with Jordan Poole out the door, but I believe they're going to be a much more efficient team. I believe that the turnovers are going to be cut down drastically because Chris Paul is going to be able, first of all, that's what he is. It's just turnover ratio. He's been a top 5 guy, still is a top 5 guy, was a top 5 guy last year. When it came to his defensive efficiency and his plus minus, his shooting efficiency, all of that was higher than Jordan Poole's last year. He was a better defender than Jordan Poole. And I've been knocking Chris Paul as saying he's not the defender that he once was, but he's going to be an upgrade there. So
right.
The tricky part is, I mean, you look around the Western Conference in particular, and all of the incredibly athletic wings that are in the West. You got Devin Booker and Bradley Beal in Phoenix. You got the guys up in Sacramento, those young, quick guys. And asking Steph to do what he did offensively and defend, there were times last year between Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. Steph Curry was the best perimeter defender among the three. That's not a recipe for success.
Right.
Klay Thompson has to, I don't know that he can get back to what he once was, but what made him special was that he was arguably the best two-way guard on the planet. He'd averaged 20 something, but his defense and his ability to take the toughest challenges, and it annoys me to no end that he doesn't have the all defensive team accolades that he deserves for the role that he played.
Agreed.
Because I think everybody just thinks of the Splash Brothers and at the offensive end, but what made that special is what made the Warriors special when they were really elite was Steph didn't have a whole lot of responsibility defensively. Klay, Andre Iguodala, some Sean Livingston, Draymond Green at the height of his powers. Like, you had all these guys who could defend at a very high level. And last year, Klay was just trying to outscore guys, and he was trying to do it by shooting threes primarily because he didn't have the same lift once he got inside the 3-point line. So I'm hoping that he took previous summer off because of everything that happened with the injuries.
Correct.
And that was evident. And I'm hoping, while I don't think he can get back to being the Klay Thompson that we saw through, the dynastic years, I do think that he can be better. He can be more efficient. And and that he can be a little more prudent with his shot selection. See, I don't see them blowing the doors off people offensively. I think
Same.
what they can be is just a more efficient, buttoned up team, that they're going to have to approach things a little bit different. What I'm really interested to see is the effect of Chris Paul when he plays with the second unit, with a Jonathan Kuminga and a Moses Moody, right? Does he get them easy buckets? And do they, like, the young guys were off of Draymond and his leadership because of what happened with Jordan. When Chris Paul comes in, are they going to look at him different? Are they going to say, this is a guy who can get me buckets. He didn't punch my young teammate. Like, are they going to, will they give him the respect that he deserves? Or are they going to go, here's another old guy coming in here telling us what to do? And Chris doesn't, I mean, he is very direct.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been that with teammates. And most people look at it and go, well, how's he going to get along with the Warriors? Because, like, you know, he's had brushed up against teammates, rubbed them the wrong way on previous teams. But it's because they weren't about what he is, which is, we're going to play the right way. We're going to play smart. We're going to be efficient. We're going to follow the program. Like, and if you don't do that, yeah, you're going to have problems. You're going to hear it from Chris Paul. Same as Draymond Green. That's why I don't expect those two to have problems, because they come from the same place. Like, This is how we play. And if you're not playing that way, you're going to hear it from them. What I don't know is, are Kuminga and Moody and some of the younger guys, are they going to follow that? I will say one other thing just about the additions, because we're just talking about all Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Like, I love the Dario Saric addition. Like,
Same.
Euro bigs and their understanding of how to play. I mean, there's a reason that Bielitsa did as well as he did with the Warriors, right?
Very cool.
Andrew Bogut, same thing. Like, they fit. The Warriors kind of have a European style, and those bigs are very accustomed to that. So I think I've really been impressed with what Mike Dunleavy Jr. has done right out of the gate. He's been very thoughtful about how he has structured this team. And quite clearly, this is what they're doing. And Warriors fans, you better be ready. This team's going to fall off a cliff at some point. Okay. Yeah. Because that's how they're approaching it. We tried to kind of go have a foot in two different camps. We tried to bring along the young guys while still holding on to the vets. And they basically decided, yeah, that didn't work so well. Let's just build what we need to build around Steph, Klay, and Dre, and see what we can, if we can squeeze another title out of them, and then we'll worry about where we go after that. And so this is going to be interesting about the seat. Like, I don't think these are the last moves that the Warriors make, potentially. If the Kuminga thing is not working, I could see them making a move. I know they love his potential, but the compass, quite clearly to me, is we are going to go get the talent, the veteran talent, or the experienced talent that fits around Steph, Klay, and Dre, and we'll worry about what the team looks like when those guys turn the bend.
Totally with you on all of that. And when we come back, Rick, I'm going to pose a question to you. Last night I did a live show with Mike Silver's son, Greg, and a listener or viewer posed a question.
You are making me feel when I start hearing that you're doing shows with guys' sons.
I know, it's crazy, man.
I started in the business with.
It's crazy. It is. Anyway. He's such a good kid too, man. I like him. He's got a bright future, I think. But the whole reason I bring that up is because someone posed the question, which and Greg and I had different answers, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this, which is Steve Kerr on the hot seat this year if the Warriors disappoint? And I'd love to get your answer when we come back. That is called a tease, folks. I'm going to give some love real fast first to FanDuel, the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. Look, football season is just around the corner, and Ric Bucher covers all these sports for Fox Sports. It's not just the NBA and the Warriors. And I'm sure you're as excited as I am about the NFL season just around the corner. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long, because right now when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. You just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, stay tuned, because we have a Warriors assistant coach coming on this program soon. But for now, we got the legend himself, Ric Bucher. I love you, man. You can follow him on Twitter. And I'm guessing if you're on Threads or Instagram, is it also Ric Bucher? Is it your name?
Yep, exact same. Yep.
Super easy. It's Rick with just a C, no K. So let's say the Warriors hypothetically disappoint this year. They're a play-in team. They're a first-round exit. Is Steve Kerr on the hot seat? Or, I mean, look, it's clear he won this weird little proxy battle they had last year between him and Bob Myers, and maybe that's going a little too far calling it that, but they clearly were not on the same page. And I do believe that played a small part in the Bob Myers maybe deciding, I've done enough here. And I could be wrong on that. I don't know. That's just me reading the tea leaves. But Steve Kerr's in control. He's been given the keys 100%. He believes this team can win a title. What happens if they disappoint? Is he on the hot seat? Does the team trust him to develop moving forward? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't see Steve Kerr as being on the hot seat in terms of there's pressure on him to keep the job by performing at a certain level.
Okay.
I do believe that the cushion on that seat is a bit worn in that, I think that he, much like Bob Myers, maintaining this team at a certain level that owner Joe Lacob expects is with changing rules when it comes to the salary cap and draft picks that haven't necessarily worked out, is all of that is just a grind. These seasons going as long as they are, and all of the media attention that the Warriors have received, and just the challenges of keeping this crew together, and a lot of the hurdles that they've had to overcome. I sense, and I was a little surprised. I thought there was a real possibility that Bob and Steve would step aside at the same time. Because they look, the reality is, whether Warriors fans want to fully embrace it or not, the best of this team is in the rearview mirror. When they went back and they grabbed a one more championship after the 2 years, that is, I just don't think that Warriors fans or NBA fans really understand how incredible that was, how unlikely it was that you have a team that is dynastic and goes deep 5-6 years in a row, deep in the playoffs, and then absolutely just the injuries come, which is what I anticipated. You can't, the human body is not built to play as much as the Warriors have played at the level they had to play.
Right.
When none of their stars are really physical freaks. LeBron James is a physical freak. Michael Jordan was a physical freak. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a physical freak. Steph Curry is unique, but he's not a physical freak, where his size and his speed and his athleticism are what can carry him and get him easy stuff. He has to maintain this level of athleticism and conditioning and be so precise in his game, have his skills honed to the finest degree in order to be what he is. And the same goes to a certain extent with Klay. Klay's not going to blaze anybody. What made Klay, quite honestly, was that he was an Iron Man guy. Like he had nicks and dings, but like he was just always available. He could play through anything. Draymond Green, same thing. Draymond is average at best, athletically, size-wise, all of it. It's his tenacity and his understanding of the game that allow him to excel.
Yes, sir.
Well, eventually when you're, and this is by NBA standards, when you're average physically and you're playing 100+ games a year, you're playing basically a full season of playoff caliber, playoff level intensity more than anybody else. Eventually your body's going to go, hey, I need a break. And the Warriors got that. They got like a full year of a break. And then they came back. And normally the work that needed to be done by Klay and Steph and Draymond in order to get back to a championship level, after all those rings,
guys
don't do that. Guys don't do that. Why am I doing that? I'm still getting paid like
right.
Tens of millions of dollars. Like, why would I put myself through that? It's really unique, right? And then injuries to other teams kind of opened the door. They prepared for the opportunity, and the opportunity presented itself. But it was so incredibly unique that they were able to do that. And so,
it's all unique. This whole thing is I'm with you. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I look at what they are and where they are, and Steve's in the same camp. Like, dude, when you've coached teams and it's you keep pushing that button, and eventually the button just wears out. You can't, they can't respond anymore, and you can't respond anymore. You can't keep reinventing yourself. I mean, Steve talked about it. Like, it was refreshing for him to have that year where, other than Joe Lacob, most people were like, no, they're not going to be good. They're not going to make the playoffs. Right. And so he could just coach the young guys, and it didn't have the same, he didn't have that pressure. Right. Yeah. You had little victories that were far different. Well, I mean, just look at everything they went through with Andrew Wiggins last year.
Yeah.
And Klay, and then Dre and Jordan. Like, that is on a daily basis when you're the head coach coming in, having to like address all that, or how do I handle this? How do I go from day to day where I try to keep Jordan engaged and Draymond where he is, and how you're keeping tabs on everybody involved in this universe and how they're interacting, trying to get this team to play at its ultimate level, man. It's exhausting for me just to think about it, like to talk about it, right? Imagine living it. So
absolutely.
Like, Steve's a made man. Steve's in the Hall of Fame. Like, as a coach. So like, I don't see him having to fight to keep the job. I think I see him fighting to still want to do the job, or feel as if he can do the job at the highest level. And I guess there's a part of me that wants to see, because I know with Joe offered the job to Stan Van Gundy before he offered it to Steve Kerr. All right.
Has this been reported before? I did not know that. That's true.
Yeah. Stan turned it down, and I think it was the Detroit, because Detroit was giving him both head coaching and personnel control. So he was going. I think that's where he went instead.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that. Okay.
And Steve didn't want to go to New York because he knew like that team and Phil and all that. He knew that this was a much better situation. but he was not the first choice. They tried to sign, they offered DeAndre Jordan an offer sheet.
I remember that. I do remember that. Yeah.
They went after Dwight Howard. They wanted to get Tyson Chandler, and they weren't even good enough for Tyson Chandler to say yes, but they wanted to get the classic big man. Okay. This is under Joe's purview. All right. If they get any one of those guys, Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, or Tyson Chandler, the small ball thing never happens.
Crazy.
Because those guys would have been paid top dollar, and you would have had to play a different way.
Yep.
So there's a part of me, and I don't want this to come off as like abject criticism of Joe, because I certainly respect the arena he built, the money he's been willing to spend, his constant drive of like, we want to win. You know, I admire what he's done. Look, I was here for the Chris Cohan era, so
was I. So was I.
I have a lot of admiration for what Joe has done, but I do think that Joe does not realize how he was gifted a Steph Curry and the Steph Klay Dre combination, and how just incredibly unique that is, and the circumstances that had cultivated them, and Steve Kerr coming along, and David Lee pulling his hamstring, and Draymond Green then stepping in and showing that he could be a point forward, and like how all those things came together to create this. Like you can't build another one.
Nope,
You're going to have to build a completely different model. And the idea that you're going to build another model that's going to have the level of success and entertainment value that the Warriors have had, like, just appreciate what you've been able to enjoy, and don't think that that's, I hate to say it, that's not going to happen again anytime soon.
Yeah,
like it's just not.
I agree. I didn't sense any lake of criticism there either. I think you were just, stating the reality of the situation. Rick, we're up against the clock. I know you got to go, but it would be remiss of me to not ask this. A little over a month ago, you were on the Warriors flagship radio station, 95.7 The Game, a station you used to be the host of for the morning show with our buddy Chris Townsend. And you, for some reason, you got aggregated saying this, and I just want to hear your perspective on it, because you reported that the team, and more specifically Draymond Green, was trying to heal things with Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole wanted nothing to do with it. And for some reason, we learned from this, or at least I learned from this, that Jordan Poole had a lot of fans. I didn't know this, and I did not understand why a certain number of people were kind of like reacted the way they did. What is your feeling of this now? It's been a month, the thing died down, but I'm just curious, like, were you appalled at the way people reacted? You just stated, what I thought was just a fact. I mean, I'd heard similar things. Like, what was your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, anytime something is sort of aggregated and they just take one element and it doesn't include the entire conversation, especially something as sensitive as this situation. And it's not to say that I don't understand why Jordan would have difficulty getting past having a video out there of him getting cold cocked by a teammate. I certainly, at 23, I don't know that I could get over it. Right. I understand from a human standpoint why he had that challenge, but being a little bit older, and having had some life experiences where, like, we've all been, in one way or the other, maybe not literally, but figuratively, we've been punched in the mouth, or we've been kicked in the head, or we've been stabbed in the back, right?
Yes.
In some way where we think, I didn't deserve that, or whatever. And so I look at that and I go, you know what? If you put the job first, if you say, like, yeah, that did happen, yeah, that hurt my feelings, but I need to be professional and I need to go do a job and I need to do it to the best of my ability. And I don't ever have to forget that guy punched me, but I got to find a way to work with him.
Yeah.
I got to find a way. And here's the other part that really disappoints me. And this is where I think at some point Jordan will come to terms with this, because everybody is like, well, he got punched by a teammate. Like, yeah, he shouldn't forgive him or he shouldn't forget it or whatever. It's like, how would you feel? This is the number one thing I got back. Like, you know what? Let me punch you and see how you feel. And this is what I've learned. Again, I didn't know this at 23. I didn't have this perspective, but I have it now. And I've had it for a while, which is when somebody does something to me, I have to look at what did I do to inspire that act toward me? Is there something that I did that motivated them? Because teammates or whatever, like people don't just out of nowhere go cold cock somebody. They don't fling. They don't go at, like, something created it. In every relationship, when it goes bad, it ain't all on one side.
Correct.
Now, sometimes it might be that I just I put myself in harm's way because I had an expectation or I had a goal, right? And I didn't recognize what was coming my way. But sometimes, like, I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I'm just joking around, right? I don't fully understand where that person is in their personal life or how that joke lands with them, like whatever it might be. And you know what? If it lands wrong and they react a certain way and I'm the one who put it out there, I'm responsible for that. Like, at least partly responsible. You can look at it and go, that dude overreacted. Fair enough. But I gave him something to overreact to.
Right.
And I just look privately and publicly, Draymond, I've heard Draymond talk about, like, I know I screwed up. I know that was wrong. Like, he has been accountable for his part, and he tried to manage his way to making it work. And all I saw or heard from Jordan was like, I'm not addressing that.
Yeah, I heard and saw the same. Yeah, I'm with you.
And that assured that issue remained there as a block in the team. He never got past it.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get past it.
Yep.
And that's what I put on him. Like, if you wanted to win another ring, then you had to find a way to resolve that within yourself so the team could resolve it. And that's why people are like, oh, you're blaming Jordan. And I'm like,
no,
I'm not blaming him for feeling the way that he did. I'm blaming him. I'm saying that the reason he had to go is because he couldn't come to terms with what happened.
Yeah, he couldn't move on. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
He couldn't move on.
Yeah.
And so they had to move on because they just got to a point where they said, it's not going to get better.
Yeah.
Like, we had a whole year and it didn't get better.
You're absolutely right.
So we had this opportunity and we're going to go ahead and we're going to take advantage of it.
And I felt like that was just a perfect example of just how much people overreact or misinterpret. You just simply reported what was really going on. I didn't understand. And again, that made me, it surprised me that Jordan Poole had that many fans, and I feel like Draymond Green's turned off a lot of people. He used to have mostly universal support among Dub Nation. Now I don't know if he has universal support. There are some people that look at him differently. But yeah, I was just weird. I've been aggregated before and had it just sucked. I really do appreciate that you were answered that. Thanks for touching on the subject.
No
anything? Yeah.
Well, there's just what I've come to understand is there's also a large faction of people out there that are looking for something to get upset about.
Yes.
Like, yes. I don't know. There's some joy in that. They get some like secret pleasure out of being offended or
Yes.
And so if they feel like someone else is offended, well, let me carry the flag for that person who I believe has been offended. And I do think, honestly, and this is the thing that I try to keep in mind, and it's actually the benefit that I have of having 2 teenagers, is I don't want to get locked into thinking, seeing the world simply through my generation or how I grew up or what I experienced, or to think that my way is better.
Right.
Like I try to maintain the humility that if I was Jordan Poole, if that happened to me at that age, I don't know that I would have handled it any better. But that does not mean that I'm going to defend how he handled it.
Right.
That's the great distinction for me. Like, I may have not known better, right? But I wish, I would hope that that someone would lead me to doing better, or that I would get counsel that would allow me at some point to do it better.
Absolutely.
And that's where this gets kind of, it gets kind of sticky because.
Well, and I feel like it was just a sticky situation for a lot of reasons, but chief among them is everybody had a different opinion on how Jordan should have reacted to the punch to begin with, right? Like some former athletes said, oh, this happens all the time. Steve Kerr got punched by Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
And then other people came out and said, I've never seen this. And there was just so many mixed opinions on it that I really couldn't take a side. I just kind of just took it as is. But I think you and I, look, you're as much of an insider as anyone when it comes to the Golden State Warriors. So I think you know what was going on with Draymond behind the scenes that day. I mean, he was not having a good day. And I try to tell people without revealing what happened that Draymond was having a very serious personal issue going on. Does it justify him punching his teammate? No. But, I mean, if you knew what he was dealing with, you would have maybe a little more understanding of maybe Jordan Poole should have been poking the bear on this particular day. I digress on that, though. But I look, Rick, you got to go. We're super late. You've got a busy schedule. I can't thank you enough. Is there anything you want to promote before you go, or anything you want to? Any final thoughts?
Well, I have my podcast as well, On the Ball, with Ric Bucher. And,
nice. Great.
But I think that's probably it. If I get anything else, I'll hit you up and you can bring me back on, and we can advertise it.
Oh, let's do it. So I'm going to be a regular at Chase this year. So I hope to see you and we'll chat. I can't thank you enough, man. I've known you since I started in this industry. Everyone I speak to who works with you loves you, and for very good reason. So Rick, man, thank you for taking the time, man. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah. And see you soon, man. And before we go, the podcast, like, is that daily? Is that weekly? Right
now it's weekly.
Okay.
Once the season starts, I try to do it 2 or 3 times a week. Sort of.
All right. Well, if you ever need filler, if a guest bails out any last minute and you need a fill-in guest, I'm your man. Rick, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll be back at it soon. Take care. Bye-bye.